After Aidan Hutchinson's traumatic leg injury in week 5 of the 2024 season, there were people that believed he would never return to the level of play that he was at during that 2024 season. There were some people saying he would never return to football at all, and if he did, he would never really get back to the level of play that he was showing before his leg injury occurred. And after a couple of months of recovery, after a long process and road back to the NFL, and after several weeks of training camp and observations, I think it's safe to say that those people were wrong, and that Aidan Hutchinson not only is back to the player that he was, but very well may be better than he ever has been before. And today, we're going to take a look at exactly how dominant Aidan Hutchinson has been through camp. We're going to take a look at exactly how he's healed, exactly where he's coming from, and kind of projecting where he may be in 2025. So, with that being said, let's go back to the injury. After dominating the first 5 weeks of the NFL season, Aidan Hutchinson went down with a leg injury. He broke his tibia and his fibula in a clean break on a sack of Dak Prescott, and unfortunately missed the remaining 13 games of the NFL season. Now, when I say Aidan Hutchinson was dominant, I mean he was dominant. He, through 4.5 games of the NFL season, had 19 tackles, 7 TFLs, 7.5 sacks, 17 quarterback hits, and a forced fumble. To put that into perspective of where he was across the league, Aidan Hutchinson played 4.5 games worth of football. He led the NFL in sacks until week 8 of the NFL season, despite not playing 3 games of that group. He led the NFL in pressures until week 11 of the NFL season, again, after leaving the season in week 5. That is how good he was. That was the trajectory in the path that he was on, that despite not playing more than half of that sample size, he led the NFL in pressures through week 11. Despite not playing several games in that stretch, Aidan Hutchinson led the NFL in sacks through week 8 of the NFL season. He was off to not only a great defensive performance, not only a defensive player of the year worthy performance, he was off to potentially the greatest defensive performance in franchise history, if not on pace to break the all-time single season sack record. So when we say that Aidan Hutchinson was dominant, when we say that Aidan Hutchinson returning is a big deal for the Detroit Lions, that is why. He is one of, if not the best defenders in football, and he is one of, if not the best defensive players in all of the league. Now, this is building off of a season where he grew quite substantially in 2023. Coming off of a rookie year, Aidan Hutchinson played in all 17 games, leading the Detroit Lions to an NFC Championship game on the defensive side of the ball. He totaled 51 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 11.5 sacks, 33 quarterback hits, 7 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and an interception. Going into next season, right, going into that 2024 year, he had a lot going for him. He had a lot riding on that season, and he was already off to a great start. He was off to, a record-setting start, having more than half of his production from 2023 in just a quarter of the possible games to be played in. So he was building and he was growing, and that is really a trend for Aidan Hutchinson. His first year, he had 9.5 sacks, played very well, but left a lot to be desired. There were games where he just didn't feel like he was the most impactful. There were games where he just seemed to disappear, and while he was certainly a fantastic rookie, he finished second in Defensive Rookie of the Year voting, had 3 interceptions, 9.5 sacks, I believe 8 tackles for loss. He was good, but going into his sophomore campaign, people were looking for more, and they got more. They got a Pro Bowler. They got a player that was on the short list for Defensive Player of the Year and one of the best defensive players under 25 across the entire league. In 2024, Aidan Hutchinson grew again, going again into that 4.5 games, being one of the most dominant pass rushers in league history through that 5-game stretch. Now, there were concerns after the injury. Of course, the big one being the videos that emerged, right? Aidan Hutchinson training in Michigan, kind of not looking very good, favoring his right leg, looking kind of awkward when he was running, and very clearly, even while being physically recovered from the injury, not mentally trusting his leg to keep up, not mentally trusting his body to protect him like he had in years past. And that is oftentimes a big part of recovery. That is oftentimes a huge reason as to why athletes can't recover from those major injuries, is the mental side of things, not being able to trust your body, not being able to have faith that your leg or your arm or your knee will hold up under the pressure of NFL contact, will hold up under the pressure of just working out in the way that you used to, at the intensity that you used to. And there was a lot of people saying that that's a bad sign, that Aidan Hutchinson wasn't going to be ready for the season, that Aidan Hutchinson may not ever be ready to play football again. And while a lot of those people were over-exaggerating, and even early on, you could say that those people were kind of over the line when it came to their predictions, it was concerning, right? Aidan Hutchinson, 5-6 months removed from this injury, still wasn't moving properly and certainly wasn't ready for NFL action, making his previous statements about returning for a Super Bowl pretty much just talk, right? It was never going to happen, and he was never going to be back for the Super Bowl. But a few weeks removed from those videos, the Lions kicked off NFL training camp. And while Aidan Hutchinson's knee and leg was in a compression sleeve, he was dominant. He looked powerful, he looked fast, he looked disruptive, and he looked the part of being all 100% healthy. He was dominating tackles, he was dominating guards, one-on-one pass rushing reps. He was pretty much an automatic win time after time after time, and it looked really good. There was a lot of videos coming out. Aidan Hutchinson, of course, was the focal point of the media as he returns from his injury, and there was a lot of people that were getting excited. A lot of people were taking back what they said, and he looked like one of the best defensive players the Detroit Lions had to offer. But it's taken a step even further than that. Aidan Hutchinson has never looked more dominant in training camp. He has never looked more dominant throughout the Detroit Lions' time on the defense, and to the point where they've had to develop the Aidan Hutchinson rule, completely ignoring the sacks that he's getting at practice, completely ignoring the pass rushing wins that he has at practice, and allowing him to essentially just automatically win reps, right? He is just winning his one-on-one opportunities. He is winning his double teams. He is beating Penei Sewell. He is beating Dan Skipper. He is beating whoever is out there blocking him almost immediately, to the point where the offense can't get offensive work in. They can't work on repetitions. They can't work on timing. They can't work on different drills because Aidan Hutchinson has been so disruptive. And Dan Campbell came out and said, the only way the offense is getting work this offseason, the only way the offense is going to improve and get better and get up to speed is if we just kind of ignore Aidan Hutchinson, right? We let him win. We put him on the defensive line. We mark him for the sack. We mark him for the, whatever production he's putting up. But then Aidan Hutchinson lets the rep continue. He steps off to the side. The coaches do not blow the play dead, and the Lions offense continues to work even after the play would have been marked over, with Aidan Hutchinson getting to the quarterback time and time again. And it's not just him beating up on the backup tackle with Taylor Decker's absence. He is winning consistently against Penei Sewell, maybe the best right tackle in all of professional football, and Aidan Hutchinson is dominating that player. And the odds that Penei Sewell took a major step back this offseason seem pretty slim, so Aidan Hutchinson must be just playing up to that level of being one of the best defensive linemen in all of football. Now, going into 2025, Aidan Hutchinson's return is incredibly vital, and he returns to a defense that, despite all the injuries a few seasons ago, or despite all the injuries a few months ago, they finished as the 7th highest scoring defense across the entirety of the NFL. They finished 4th in the NFL in pressures. They finished 1st in the very best defense on getting off the field on 3rd down. They finished 2nd in the NFL in 4th down defense and 7th in the NFL in red zone defense, despite the injuries to Anzalone, Aidan Hutchinson, Derek Barnes, Ali McNeil, Marcus Davenport, Alex Anzalone, and all of the other players that they missed a season ago, especially down the stretch. They still finished as one of the best defenses in football. From a lot of metrics, they finished as a top 10 unit across the NFL. And yes, it fell apart at the end. All right, the last 4 to 5 weeks of the season, including that playoff game, the defense was completely out of stars. They were completely out of juice. It was Kirby Joseph, it was Brian Branch, and that was about it. Everybody else was gone. The entire defensive line was decimated. Nearly the entire linebacking core was decimated. Even your starting cornerbacks were hurt or out. In the case of Carlton Davis, he was out. In the case of Terrion Arnold, he was severely injured. Amik Robertson left the playoff game very early. Down the stretch, especially that playoff game, the Detroit Lions defense was completely decimated. But they played so well early in the season that they still finished as a top 10 defense statistically across the entire league. So, with Aidan Hutchinson playing potentially and hopefully 17 games, barring a major injury, how good could that defense be? How good could the Detroit Lions defense look in 2025 if they return even half the production they were missing from a season ago? I think Aidan Hutchinson returning will turn this Detroit Lions defense into a top 5 unit across the league. And that may sound like some massive expectations based on how they finished the season, but based on how they started the season, I don't think that really is. There were several games where they allowed less than 20 points. And in the games that they allowed more than 20 points, they never allowed more than 30 points. Not a single time through the first several weeks. And they allowed, 7 points to Dallas. They allowed just 20 points to the Buccaneers in a game that they lost. They allowed just 20 points to the Rams in a game that they won in overtime. They allowed just 13 points to the Arizona Cardinals. Like, they were playing some dominant defensive football even after Aidan Hutchinson went down. They allowed just 3 points to the Tennessee Titans, or 7 points to the Tennessee Titans. They allowed just 10 points to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were a dominant football team in week in and week out. They lost everybody on the defensive side of the ball. So returning Aidan Hutchinson very well could make this defense a top 5 unit in football. And if he's playing nearly as well as he seems to be in camp, the Lions defense will be in good hands for years to come. But with that being said, that is just the big update on the injury report for Aidan Hutchinson. He looks good. He looks healthy. He's ready to contribute. He's ready to get back out there. And the Detroit Lions, as they take the field against Atlanta and go through the preseason, they're going to only continue to get better. So with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your opinions down in the comments below on where you feel Aidan Hutchinson is. Are you worried about the start to the season? Are you excited to see 97 back on the field? I'd love to hear you guys' opinions on where you feel he is and your expectations for the year. But with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions!